Hey everyone, what's up? It's Spiritual Crypto again. I was thinking about how, I thought for a while that I should record like an intro or something for these, but I don't want to because I like how shitty they are. I want it to be this lo-fi and kind of like more like old school YouTube or something. And I have like 110 YouTube subscribers and that's cool. I like that it's like that. But I felt like recording. I felt inspired actually, which is unusual in the scheme of how I've mostly been feeling for the last bunch of months. Oh man, I almost just shut this off to like delete what I've said so far, but that's not the point of these. The point is like to just say whatever. So what's going on? I'm in Martha's Vineyard, on Martha's Vineyard right now. I'm in week 4 of the coding boot camp that I'm doing, which presented itself because I've made every hiring mistake it's possible to make in trying to find like the right developer collaborators over the life of Seeds. And I think I've said this on here before, but like at this point, the current Seeds product ecosystem is like 95% built by me. And I have a lot of faith in my ability to like figure stuff out and just keep going until something improves, but it's not anywhere near as good as it needs to be. I mean, it's secure enough and everything because it's nothing I built has to do with security related things. So there's like no question of that. But yeah, I was just like, after the last time this happened, which I think I said in the last podcast recording, it just seemed like it was the universe telling me that I needed to do this myself and figure out how to build what we need myself, especially if I have this intimation that I'm gonna like come up with a better foundation, I guess, for programming languages of the future. Like, I feel ridiculous saying, but that's just because of my own internalized misogyny and misofem. Because I did have like this clear vision that that's something that's gonna happen in the future in like my 50s. And I guess having some like improved knowledge of how programmatic thinking is currently designed and stuff isn't going to hurt that. So I'm in this intensive and stuff, and it's like this Canadian boot camp, and I like researched different boot camps and stuff to try and find the one that seemed like the best fit and was like drawn more toward Canadian energy because it's nicer in a lot of ways, needless to say, than American energy. And I think it was also part of this exploration that I just did where I like left the US for a while. And and then I just felt like, oh, like the nicest people I've been around recently were in Toronto. So I like specifically looked in Toronto for boot camps and found this one. But it's, everything is like online, right? Like the people after the pandemic, like their students didn't want to go back to their campus, even though they have a campus. So like, you can do it from anywhere. And at first I was kind of like, oh, I kind of want in-person community because I've been so like not in that for a really long time. But of course it's like more convenient and better in a lot of ways to like, it was like kind of interesting, I thought, because I haven't done like an in-person online course like this ever. I've done like a ton of coaching and stuff and like therapy and whatever. But yeah, so it's just interesting to see like how much more you can actually, I think, retain when you're approaching it in that way than I would if I were there in person and having to worry about all the stuff that like is required if you go somewhere in person and sit there for 8 hours. Which is why school is so weird. Like the institution of school is so, I don't know. I just wonder how much trauma kids experience because they're forced to physically go to like school as an institution for the first 18 years of their lives. It just seems really weird. I mean, it's good there's certainly value in in-person interactions, obviously. And I'm like such a weird alien now because on top of actually feeling like I am an alien in a human body, I like am so disconnected from all other humans in person and have been for such a long time. It's like I can feel myself getting weirder, like forgetting social interaction things that like a lot of that is bullshit, but like some of it is real and some of it is like helpful for you and for other people. Like the other day I was like messaging with my friend from college, like my dear friend who's a rabbi now, and I don't even like get invited to weddings really that much, which is kind of interesting. And Max Minghella, my future husband, said that on a podcast once too. And I can't think of anyone else I know of who's said that. Because you think like I'm almost 39. You would think that I would have gotten invited to like a ton of weddings like 10 years ago, probably ish, like college friends and stuff. And then like where I grew up, people either got pregnant really young or like got married like when they were in their early 20s. But I've only really been to a handful of weddings. Like I feel like there are so many other like more like Instagram mid-millennials who, you know, had like years of like a wedding every weekend or something like that. And like that didn't happen remotely at all for me. But anyway, why am I talking about that? I completely lost my train of thought. In-person weddings. Oh, so I was talking to I thought of this because I was in her wedding, my dear friend who's a rabbi. Because I needed her to do this like small favor, and she's like always down and is really good about, like, she's one of those people who will like, you'll be in her circle for your whole life, even if you become a weird hermit for several years like I have, like, and we'll always be good friends and whatever. Anyway, but like in interacting with her, it was like, oh, I remember what I was like when I used to be like fun and charming, or like I knew how to be fun and charming. And it was like stepping into an entirely different energy that was like really helpful to sort of like embody briefly. Because it's like, you know how that thing is like they talk about like divorce or whatever is so painful because you have all this shared history. And I think that there's also that thing where, you know, when you have longer term relationships with people, you have that sort of shorthand and that easy way of stepping into sort of a version of yourself that you were maybe like in the earlier days of your relationship with that person. Or obviously things evolve for both people over time, and the relationship has to evolve or else it won't continue to exist. But like, it feels like a version of that. Like I remember thinking that very clearly with my brother Tyler, who's like my next brother, who's like the golden child in the narcissistic family structure I came from, and I was a scapegoat kid. And like there was this way when we were kids up through like, I don't know, even my early 20s, he was 3 years behind me in school. He's not quite 3 years younger than I am. And like there was this way, it was like we had the identical sense of humor for a while. And like there was a silly way of being with him that like I would just be that way when I was with him. And I think it was similar for him. And like once he got super depressed, and like he was diagnosed with like bipolar disorder and stuff, and then he started using like hard drugs a lot. It was like that part of my personality like shut down. Like I don't remember how to access it in the same way. But saying this now, and I guess this is why doing this is fun for me, at least, to make these recordings, and hopefully like there are some people out there who like also appreciate them. I like it at least when people share like this. That is like encouraging to remember, because it reminds me that there's this shorthand for like stepping into trying to be in this clown movie that I want to make. And that seemed like the most challenging part. Like the way I think of it is like Seeds is a springboard, because fucking capitalism is designed to oppress human creativity in most ways, and keep us trapped in like survival paradigms instead of giving us the support that we need so we can like start healing and creating. So it's like Seeds is this platform for us. And then from there, I want people to have the support that they need to create because of Seeds. Which isn't to say it's like a panacea, but like if you have enough money in this world that we exist in, because like money is still a thing, and like a medium of exchange is probably going to still continue to exist, and a medium of exchange in itself is not problematic in the way that capitalism is problematic, and it predates capitalism by thousands of years. Money predates capitalism by thousands of years as well. So it's like we'll have that, and then I want people to be able to create stuff and do the healing work. And I want to create stuff too, and I want to make this clown film. But the thing that's been one of the bigger barriers, one is that I don't have a fucking home, and that seems so impossible to find. But it seems like I'm close to landing more so in that, which I guess I'll talk about in a little bit. But then the other thing is just like, I thought that I would have to play the clown in the clown film, and I'm such a drag, and so like the opposite of charismatic anymore, and like so not silly, and just like a drag. Like I feel myself being a drag all the time, and I'm judging myself for it so harshly, which is probably part of the lesson I'm supposed to learn, because when I'm loving and accepting of it, others will be too. But that also has made it like interesting to see myself interacting in sort of this group setting in the coding boot camp, because I haven't done something like that in such a long time. And whenever I've been in these sort of group settings, the only other exceptions or sort of like similar-ish situations have been meditation courses. Like for the last 10 years, Seeds is 10 years old now. And, and then also, I should say like startup accelerators that we went through. So like Techstars and Boost VC. But I mean, Techstars we went through like almost 8 years ago, which is pretty nuts, but it was in 2015. And with that, bringing that up is also kind of interesting, because it was a similar thing. Like there was that idea of bringing in family dynamics from the past that I hadn't yet healed. Like at Techstars, we had a female MD managing director, which is like fucking rare in the world of investment in VC. But she was like most women, especially older. I mean, she's only probably like 8 years older than I am or something. 2015, I was 31. So I was like, she was probably my age now-ish during that. But like, I feel like it's more like women older than she is, more like boomer women or something, who, like the women that were in those positions would be like the most misogynistic, because they just had to make themselves that way to like make it through that system. And I understand that, and like can totally sympathize with it and stuff, and like recognize and appreciate all the shit they had to deal with. But then that internalized misogyny is obviously like turned on other people. And it was interesting because like she didn't really want me in the group, and like Techstars is hard to get into. And I think we applied, that was the fourth time we'd applied. And definitely part of what helped us get in was my last abusive boyfriend who had gone through Techstars before. And he was like this, like, I wonder what he's like now. But at that time, I perceived him to be like super charming, like a salesy. He could seem like kind of sleazy. Like I didn't know the term bridge and tunnel at the time, but he had that thing. He's from Westchester, which is a county north of New York City, and an Italian New Yorker, so that thing too, which I think is really attractive, because there's like a healthier balance of masculine and feminine energy, I think, a lot in guys with that upbringing. Anyway, so he talked to her. And I never have really done stuff like this or benefited from stuff like this, to my knowledge, where like somebody who was like a salesy person or whatever, that type of personality, like put in a good word for me to like benefit Seeds or like any other thing I've ever done. And I think I need to like, I should do that more, or I should be more open to it and less judgmental of it and whatever. But because this woman who was the MD who made the decisions about who was going to be in Techstars, she only picked, I think, 11 companies, and there were hundreds of applicants and stuff. Like they say, it's like, I think it was like a 3% acceptance rate or something like that ish. Then I don't know. Techstars has since scaled to a lot of different places around the world, and even then it was in several places. But anyway, it was like, because she liked, this is my perception, obviously, because she liked guys like that guy I was dating. And he was like fun and whatever. Yeah. Like that got me into the program. I don't think she would have let me in. Like she had a weird feeling about me when she met me. Like she literally told him that she didn't know about me. And I remember I met her at a coffee shop in San Francisco, and I like bought her coffee and was like nice to her. And like, she was just, yeah, probably most founders weren't like buying her coffee. I don't know. Anyway, why am I talking about all this? Oh, because so being in that group environment then, and that was like roughly 3 months long, and it was in person because things were still in person in 2015. It was in New York. And it was just interesting because it was like, I didn't recognize it until my friend Laura, who also went through the program, pointed it out. But this woman, Jenny, because I'm going to say people's names and be open on this podcast, not like you couldn't find this out anyway if you felt like Googling. She started targeting me. Something in me really triggered her. And it was interesting because I started to recognize it was something like it was a narcissistic dynamic, like in the situation with my dad. And it was like she could see me perceiving that in her or seeing the machinations of it or something and like judging it, frankly, because like I still am judgmental of narcissism and like don't want to have any narcissist in my orbit in any way. And she saw it, and I guess narcissists are good at that, right? So like, yeah, so she kind of came at me. And then also I don't know what this means yet, or I don't understand what this pattern is in myself, but I think it is some communication thing I learned from my dad about like totally being tone deaf or like, I don't understand it yet. I've seen it somewhat in my brother though too, but I did this more when I was younger. Like at one point she would do this thing like, which she was from Manhattan and I think went to Dalton, and so it was like a class of person that like I had very little interaction with, like zero interaction with before college. And you know, like most people I grew up around, like would never interact with in a million years. And she just did this thing. I think it was more like a function of when she was born though. Like an older, I remember like 8 years ago. So not that long ago, but like when she would have been around 40, I remember using this phrase like 40-year-old cool girl to describe this sort of, but it's a specific like Gen X thing. Gwyneth Paltrow kind of has it, but like she would have been, Gwyneth Paltrow would have been the apex of this in the 90s, I guess. It was sort of like this thing, but she would do this thing. Like I remember one time, she wanted to talk to me for some reason one-on-one, and we were in this open office like that they converted just for this accelerator and stuff. It was like nice and stuff in like the Flatiron district. And this guy came over who like worked for Techstars or Barclays, which was the bank that was affiliated with the program, and did something or said something to her, and then he left. And as soon as he left, she like made some really shitty comment about him to me. And like, so, and it was a pattern that I saw her do. It was like, she would like shit on the person she just talked to the person she was talking to as like a way to relate. It's totally, oh my God. It's like literally, it's exactly what Regina George does in Mean Girls. I don't think she complimented the guy or anything, but you know, like in Mean Girls where Regina George like sees the girl who's like from the like Black Hotties group or whatever, like when they're classifying the groups in the cafeteria, but this is like in the hallway. The girl walks by and she's like, Regina George is like, oh, cute bracelet. And the girl's like, thanks. And she walks away. And then she turns to Lindsay Lohan's character and she's like, oh my God, that was the most heinous thing I've ever seen in my life, or something like that. It was kind of like that. And so like, I called this person, Jenny, out later. It wasn't even a call out though. It was just like part of my natural approach to conversation, where I said something about how like she had this mean girl. I literally called it a mean girl. Although I hadn't drawn that Regina George connection until literally this moment, but I referred to it as like a mean girl way of relating. And I like said that to her. And after that, she was like, she avoided me like the plague, like literally like, yeah. Like a year or two later at their like big international conference, I like pushed and pushed to have them have like one fucking single like diversity discussion panel or something. And I wanted one that was for women, and they like wanted to like bunch everybody together because like they're all like white straight men. Like they just like, it was like everyone who wasn't white straight cis male were supposed to be relegated to a category. They wouldn't even consider like having something that was for women. And so I had to fight them for this fucking thing. And this was like 2016 or 2017, I guess. So like stuff hadn't broken open yet. So like Me Too hadn't happened yet. And I remember I was like sitting there, and she like walked into the room, saw me, and like turned around and walked out, and like just didn't come back in. And anyway, but I'm bringing this up because I realized that group dynamic showed me some, you know, like when you haven't healed your family of origin stuff yet, you keep seeing it in different dynamics out in the world until you heal it. And I think that extends into past life, unhealed trauma and stuff too. So, yeah, she was kind of like my dad. And I realized I became a lot more equanimous to it. And I didn't recognize the patterning consciously until my friend Laura pointed it out, like explicitly said, like, for some reason, like Jenny was like targeting me. And I was like, whoa, yeah, actually you're right. And yeah, and then I was able to get equanimous about that and genuinely didn't care. Although I can feel, as I look at myself now, I can still feel some like judgments or like I totally don't think that whole way of being is cool or like interesting, or like I want to shit on it kind of and like make fun of that whole sort of worldview it seemed like she'd adopted. And I don't know what she's like now. People can change a shit ton in 8 years. And I'm different now, obviously, too. But so, yeah, I'm not like totally equanimous about it. But yeah, so, and then I remember after that, like, yeah, it was a year later when we did TechCrunch Disrupt Battlefield. It was totally like something I manifested in a healthy way, one of the most healthy manifestations I've ever had, because I really wasn't trying for it. There was no desperation in it at all. It just happened because a girl I hung out with at a thing worked for TechCrunch, and she like invited me in and like introduced me to the person who was putting together the competition. And I think the application was due like that day or the next day. And the girl had a very similar energy to Jenny. Although I wouldn't say she was a narcissist exactly. But she'd gone to MIT and like had gone through Y Combinator, but her startup had failed because she like wasn't a founder type, you could tell. But she was very mean. and I didn't care. Like I wasn't fazed by that at all by that point. And things went super well there, I think, actually. I mean, we didn't win. And she was coaching us on our presentations, and she was a really fucking good coach. And so it was like I was able to take the value that was offered there and I wasn't triggered by the stuff that would have triggered me more in the past. And I remember thinking consciously, even at that time, that like after that experience had ended with the TechCrunch Disrupt Battlefield thing, it was like, oh, okay, like I'm not going to run into that again. Like I processed that part of it and healed that part of it. So like that pattern isn't going to keep showing itself to me anymore because there's no need. Yeah, okay, that's why talking like this helps me, at least. Because now I can see that, yeah, so then since then, the only group situations I've been in that weren't like a thing that I was like supposed to be in charge of or whatever, like a Seeds course or something, like our crypto trading course, which is a super different dynamic if you're supposed to be like the person overseeing it and whatever. And that's like the role I've been in for many years now within my own community. And that can get tiring, too. Like sometimes I need a break from it. And except for at the Vipassana meditation courses. So I was thinking like the one, I haven't talked about this on here yet. I still need to finish the Vipassana stories was starting to share, and I still intend to, like my recollections of each course that I've done. But yeah, I got fucking kicked out of the organization in 2021 after I sat the 20-day course of that specific organization, the Goenka organization. And what happened was, okay, so I did the 20-day, and I didn't want to go to this particular center because it was the worst run center of any of the like 12 or whatever I'd been to. And so I'd said after the last time I'd been there, like, oh, I'm just not going to come back here again. But I'd been wanting to do a 20-day for years, and they were finally going to let me do it. I had the requirements and whatever, and it just lined up that this place had availability and I was able to go, and we had the support that was necessary at Seeds and stuff for me to go for 3 weeks. So I went, and yeah, and it was manifestation again, right? Like you line up with the shit that you're supposed to line up with to heal your stuff or whatever, unless you're unhealed in an area, and then you can just really manifest something beautiful and nice. But yeah, so it was just, as I said, like badly run. And the Goenka courses normally are really well run. That was something he was excellent at, which is why his courses have scaled all over the world so successfully. I mean, that's a big part of why. And yeah, like I just said, like, they're supposed to be managed well so that the meditators can just literally be silent and just totally focus on the meditation. And that's normally how it is. And then you don't have to ever talk to the teacher or the manager or anything. And that's I almost never talked to the teachers and the managers at those courses, but at this one, it was just like a mess. And yeah, just like some stuff had to be said, like the manager, who was super sweet and like so receptive, but like she was like in the room next to mine, and she was like talking on the phone to people in India where she was from at like 5 a.m. before that actually, like 4:30 in the morning, when we would get up for the first meditation. And so they didn't even, like, they were supposed to be so, respectful of the need for silence for the meditators, especially in the 20-day and these longer courses, because you're going even deeper than you would in a 10-day, that you wouldn't even speak. Actually, you would write notes if something was coming up. So like I wrote her a note and just told her like I could hear her and stuff. And so she stopped, and that was great. But like, it was a bunch of stuff like that. And I could see like systemic stuff, like the teachers didn't tell her like to not ring the bell at this one time. So she was like running around, and then she was like, they have a separate entrance for the servers in the Dhamma hall. And the intention there again is to like make things less disruptive for the meditators. So this poor girl would be like running around and like ringing the gong and then like running in from the back. And it was like noticeable and not like, defeating the purpose of the separate server's entrance. Just stuff like that. And like a well-managed center doesn't mess with that. And then I was like required to speak to this teacher, unfortunately, a couple times. There were like 2 mandatory check-ins. And, and there was a beeping in the meditation hall. That was the other thing, which was totally a function of them. Like, that's the thing. And I know this is related to the gifted adult thing that I have. I don't remember noticing this so much when I was younger, but it's like I can see the system of human interactions and like different things going on for different humans, different things they're working through, and how it comes together to like produce a certain output or outcome. And so I could see here that this fucking beeping, like, okay, so it was like they don't know what it is. They didn't know what it was. And it was in the Dhamma hall, and it was like incessant for like the first 4 days of the course. And when you're really a quantumist, shit like that doesn't bother you like at all. You don't care. But I could also see the way that like, so apparently I learned later that Goenka, the main teacher who's been dead for 10 years almost, came to visit this center. The center's in Washington State in the US. In like the early 2000s, he did a tour of North America in like an RV. And he came there and he was like, the pagoda, which is for, pagodas have individual meditation cells. He was like, the pagoda should be right here. And I know that Goenka wouldn't have meant that the pagoda and the meditation hall should be one building. That's not like the quote unquote ideal meditation center that he would talk about, that like all the centers are like trying to move toward being. But these people, they built the meditation hall, the Dhamma hall, in that area. And then now at that time, at least a couple years ago, they were constructing the pagoda in one building with the meditation hall. And that's the first thing, like, and I could just see how it was like some ignorance and like, but they're also like, I know that one of the other senior teachers at that center, because I served a course that he that he taught, is a contractor. So this center would like build more stuff themselves, which can be awesome. But later they were giving us a tour of the pagoda after the course ended, and they built it themselves. And I could just see the ego that the main teacher had about that. But in doing that, something got fucked up so that somebody left a fucking something that beeps in the wall that no one can find. And like they said, they've called the fire department, and like they just can't find out what this fucking beeping is. So it stopped on day 4. But yeah, I like wrote a note about that. I was like, can this beeping be turned off or something? Yeah. And so in the mandatory check-ins with the teacher that I wish we didn't have to do, she said something about like how I was doing with my agitations, because I'd ask about those things. And because I had to talk to her, it was a mandatory thing. And because I couldn't perceive the situation clearly enough to recognize that it actually wasn't like quote unquote safe to do this. In the mandatory meeting with her, I talked about how like, yeah, of course it's my sankhara, my agitation, my lack of equanimity that made me even bothered at all by incessant beeping in the meditation hall. But it was poor management at the center that like resulted in that outcome. And so I could see that she couldn't hear what I was gonna, like in the first meeting, I didn't share all of that. I walked it back or like just stopped. I don't know if I remember being able to see in her eyes that there was this lack of comprehension and this lack of ability to take in what I was going to need to share, or what I thought she wanted me to share. And then in the second meeting, so maybe I said all that in the second meeting. That makes more sense, which was like on day 14 or 15 or something. Anyway, when I did say that, so I must have said part of it or spoke to part of it in the first meeting. And then in the second mandatory meeting, like 10 days later, I voiced this thing about this. That's how I understand that's how these interactions work. Like, it's all Sankara interacting with Sankara. Like, if there's anyone you're triggered by or like some behavior that you're really upset with, it's because there's something unhealed in you that it interacts with. And it can almost be the same Sankara. Like, I mean, I think it can be, you can be on opposite ends of it. Like, for example, for me, you know, like if I'm seeing like something out there about sexual assault or somebody being raped because I was raped and have been sexually assaulted, that there's still, and it's not totally healed, but it's pretty close to healed now, I'd say. That can be more triggering for me because of that. So it's like the same Sankara, but like sort of opposite ends of that experience or something. And who knows what I did in past lives. Like, I've never seen a past life of mine where I sexually assaulted somebody or raped them, but you know, who knows? Like, I mean, I think we've all lived lots of lives, most of us. Some might be newer souls, and so we've all done a lot of different things and been a lot of different people with a variety of different experiences. All that said, so it's like it's the same Sankara. And this teacher, I saw it on the first day, because this was like the first course post-COVID restrictions, and they made us all submit proof of vaccine and stuff, proof of vaccination. And this was going to be the first course that they'd done where people weren't masked. And on the first day, and this is the thing again where like I'm seeing the way systems are working together, systems of people and the things people make. We were all walking in like the dining hall with our shoes on, which you typically don't do. You would leave them outside because the dining hall was carpeted. And so we were doing that, and apparently they'd done that during COVID so that there wasn't like a holdup while people were taking their shoes off, where people would be standing too close to each other, obviously because of social distancing, and then they could just walk in one door and exit out a different door, which wasn't what they typically do in non-COVID times. Anyway, so we were walking in this dining hall with our shoes on, and so I asked on the first day, like, oh, do you want us to take our shoes off in here? And the teacher, I could see her get like embarrassed or something. She was like, oh, she literally said like, oh yeah, oh, we have our shoes on in here now, don't we? And then they talked about it, and it was like, oh yeah, we should take our shoes off. So I saw that wobble of like embarrassment about just not being more on top of that type of little shit, which is, it's right, it sounds like little shit, but the thing about the Goenka course is that they've thought through so many of those aspects, typically when they're well run, that it's so comforting. It's that healthy balance. Like, I don't know if I've said on here before, like the reason this was so upsetting to me too, that I've healed some of it since, that these fuckers kicked me out, was that that's the only institution I've ever interacted with of any kind, the only human-made institution that truly had a healthy balance of masculine and feminine energy, because there was this great healthy structure, which isn't perfect. I mean, Goenka's dead. I wish I could have known him while he was alive in his later years. That's the thing about those teachers though too. If you catch them when they're young, you know, they're not as developed yet. And then by the time they're 80, they have these enormous followings, and then it's harder to be able to interact with them in that way, which is why we have to bring it through ourselves and heal ourselves and be that for ourselves. But I mean, that's not why, but that's like another reason. Yeah, so anyway, I could see that in this teacher. And so when I because I had to in this mandatory meeting because I had to talk to her about what was going on. And I said that. She got triggered as fuck. She was so angry. I've never seen a teacher out of a Vipassana course get angry really. I had at that center before, but the guy was able to stop it pretty quickly. And that's another more like evidence that center, people weren't as developed and stuff there. Which isn't to say like you never get mad as you're more developed, but people develop to a point where they really don't feel or experience anger anymore. And if you're teaching a 20-day, as this teacher was, that's supposed to mean that you're more advanced. This was the most senior teacher at that center. Yeah, so she got really fucking mad, and and I said something about how I could see that like it was triggering defensiveness in her, and she was like, well, I guess we both have stuff we need to work on then. And then she just started meditating. And normally in those sessions, the teachers will say like, okay, let's take a few minutes to meditate together. She was like so mad that she forgot to say that part. And the tension in the room was just like vibrating hard. Like it was so tense. So that meeting ended and I was like, okay, good. Hopefully I won't have to talk to her again and I can just focus on the rest of the meditation. But the next day she made me go into a meeting with her husband, the other teacher, and just restated what she'd said in the meeting I had with her, except that she lied. She exaggerated the amount of notes I'd written. And they were like, don't write any more notes. You're no longer allowed to communicate with the staff. And I was like, I had no intention to do that anymore and didn't want to in the first place. They made it about something that, first of all, wasn't true. And then also like, wasn't at all what had actually happened. And I remember looking at her eyes in that session and just kind of like being shocked. I feel like I've said this on this podcast then about like the level of ignorance there. And I think I had past life interactions with her too, where she was in some sort of position of some degree of authority over me and didn't use it well. And I spoke out about it. And there's some vibration of that in there too. Yeah, so I was really angry in that meeting because she lied. She was breaking Sheila. That's like the baseline thing you're not meant to do. That's the first thing you're not supposed to do because it weakens your meditation. You can't like meditate if you're not building up Sheila, and part of Sheila is right speech, not lying, as well as other things. So yeah, they wouldn't let me talk. So it was all my stuff coming up. Like I manifested it again, right? Like I lined up with this like not well-run organization where they were like kind of abusing power and trying to silence me and whatever. I mean, I went there to be silent. And then when I was forced to talk, they like shut it down. Anyway, so like whatever, I left and finished the course and it ended. And then I like tried to talk to their board afterward to like speak about these issues. And there was like a virtual board meeting call-in that I went to. But before I went to it, I emailed them about stuff, about what had happened. And they fucking left me sitting outside of that meeting for like 2 hours. Like nobody told me like, you're not going to be permitted into this meeting that we've already told you were welcome at. Which was especially shitty, I think, and really showed like what the problems at that center are. And then I was told eventually that I can't go to any Goenka courses in any center in the world. There are like 200 centers around the world or something. And I tried everything out. Like, I don't mean to talk about this too much, but anyway, that was a group situation I was in recently being like July of 2021. Well, I'm like looking at my legs now. There's a lot more muscle in my quads than there used to be. Like a lot more, huh? Because I'm bulking now. I'm like eating a shit ton of calories and lifting heavier, and my body feels really weird and too big, and I'm gaining fat too. And I think I'm probably the heaviest I've ever been. I haven't weighed myself yet. I'm going to get another DEXA scan at the end of April to see how much muscle I put on. But like, I want to put on muscle and then take off this fat to finally get this metabolism working properly and whatever. Anyway, now I feel like I'm being quote unquote boring, but it's because I'm kind of tired. And whenever I'm worried about being boring, it's always because I think someone's not going to be able to receive or show support, the support that I'm seeking for something that was painful for me. And that was really painful to like have that taken from me. I mean, I can continue trying. I intend to go to the center in Shelburne Falls. Like when I bought this fucking land in Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts, I bought it because there's a Vipassana center there. The first one I went to in 2013 is in the town. It's like 10 minutes from my land. And I thought that would be cool because like I might have a child. Maybe I'll have a biological child, but it seems, I don't know. I might just be an old lady that meditates a lot. I mean, kids bring karma and stuff. And I thought like it would be cool to have the house there or something, and then I could maybe just give it to the center when I die or something. Yeah, so that happened when I was in a group situation in 2021, and then like something sort of similar happened when I went to Vipassana courses in England, taught by the teacher. So it was like Goenka's the teacher at these other centers, right? Goenka's teacher had another student who was able to scale up like 6 centers around the world. So I Googled like Goenka's teacher and other people who had been his students and found this other center and went to it. And it was a somewhat similar thing, but that's the thing. It showed me that I'd healed this patterning to some degree, because like I didn't go in and meet with authority that like I didn't get kicked out of this center, but I saw problems and felt that I needed to speak up about it for my fellow students. And in these courses, you speak in a group setting, which seemed to maybe have some pros, but probably I could see why Goenka doesn't do it that way anymore. I think they were doing what his teacher used to do. Yeah, so I like spoke up about some stuff to try and advocate for my fellow students. But this is like Enneagram type 8 stuff showing itself, where I think I'm protecting people. I know I've said in here that I'm an Enneagram type 7, and that was what showed up on tests the first several years that I took that test. But then in more recent years, it started showing that I was an 8 with a 7 wing instead of a 7 with an 8 wing. And yeah, I just looked at it again recently. And yeah, I seem 8-ish as fuck lately. Like cusp of healthy 8, but not quite there. Like really concerned with resources, which is how I feel now, because I feel like I really have to get this tiny house set up, and I need to get into it, and I need to get, the Seeds product improved. Like this is a building year. I need to get this body figured out so I can fucking like finally land in it and be a human on earth and stop hating humanity and like the human experience as much as I have. I sigh as I say that because I feel so exhausted by all of that. Yeah, so anyway, it was better. So it seemed like I'd healed it to some degree. So I'd landed in a situation where they were going to be less authoritative and fucking like trying to crush me as the other center had been. And some of the other students there like actually thanked me for speaking up afterward, which is like still not a very frequent occurrence for me. I feel like I'm speaking up to these sort of like authoritarian energies frequently, usually by myself though. And they just hate me, and like I get shunned, but that's like my experience in my family of origin. Yeah, so now it's kind of interesting to me to come into this group setting now several months later, or a few months later. Time is like weird lately. It's like fast and also slow, because I just did this last course that I'm referring to, this Vipassana course, where I spoke up in like over the new year. And it's only March now, almost April. But yeah, seeing the environment I'm in this boot camp, I can see how much my hatred, and it really is hatred. Like, I don't want to hate things. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to like be in this perpetual state of fucking frustration about like the reality of the current stage of evolution that humanity is at because of this dominance of this shitty masculine energy. But it's the reality. And I like believe that I chose to come into this situation in this body with this set of experiences for a particular mission at this time. And I can see what that mission is. I feel like I see with greater clarity all the time. It's about feminine energy and about like trying to help raise the vibration, getting us out of capitalism is a huge part of that. That's what Seeds is working to do. Seeds is like, I think, so important for where we're heading in the next several years. It's so important that I do everything I can to heal my shit and really do the best that I possibly can to get Seeds as ready as possible to help as many people as possible through the coming years, because the shift is coming and we need platforms for that. We need I don't even like using the word platform, but we need that support. We need that infrastructure that can stretch around the world to offer that support, this alternative to the system that we're just, like, so many of us are unthinkingly stuck in. So I really have to do my best to do that. And that's why I'm taking this boot camp, so I can improve the things myself, because trying to find the help and support through the current, like, what engineers, predominantly male engineers are like now, has not worked. And I sure have tried. I've tried and tried for many years. And so I get that. But yeah, I feel like this is the big hurdle, man. Like, today, after the course ended, it's like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, Eastern time. I took my dog on a walk it's actually really beautiful. That's the other thing. I can't really enjoy Martha's Vineyard now. I mean, it's great to be here, actually. I really hope I can buy a house here in the next couple years. That'd be great. That'd be like a dream, or literally like that past life, future life regression that I had. I think I haven't had that thought about anywhere else with this clarity, where it's just like, yeah, I want to have a house here. And it's not even, it's the land and the energy and the light here. I feel like I'm not running into like a ton of nice people. Like, I feel like in Western Mass, I ran into like a bunch of nice people, which is where my land is, the land I own in Shelburne Falls. But yeah, so I feel some ambiguity, but like, and something about like, it's an island, but that like, the Obamas have a house here and stuff. I'd like to be around his energy. His energy is very feminine, and of a higher vibration, I think. I love him a lot. I really do. He just couldn't do that much in that shitty system, man. That's why we just need new systems, like that shitty system's kind of, it really thwarted his best intentions and his good work. And so we just need new systems is the fucking answer. I'm totally convinced. Yeah, and it's just like, kind of like that. I don't know. There's something interesting about this island where it's like, like we were walking and we saw this kid ride by on her bike by herself, and that's cool. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of this merging of different things. Like, it's not commercial and shitty like you see in everywhere else I can think of, that where rich people go to have houses. And then there's like the year-round islanders, and there's a lot of affordable housing issues here. And it is really fucking weird to walk around and see, because it's like not the quote-unquote season yet here. I think it starts actually in April in a few days officially. So yeah, I was thinking that while I was walking with my dog, like there are all these fucking nice-ass houses that are, like empty 9 months of the year. And at the same time, this affordable housing crisis that they're literally like, they took a trip to lobby like Massachusetts State Congress, I guess, like last week, 5 days ago, to try and address that issue with government intervention. Anyway, yeah, as I was walking though, what the fuck was I thinking? I was just thinking like, I can't hate Earth anymore. And it's not, I don't hate Earth. Earth is beautiful. There's a lot of beauty here. There really is. And when I'm more connected with nature, it helps. And that's why I'm trying to do that more. And the other weekend I like went camping and slept in my car the one night with my dog, like by the beach. It was fucking great. It was great. Like, I felt like I wasn't being continually depleted by fucking leeches like I feel in this shitty capitalistic system. What is that fucking light that's on? I'm kind of freaked out now, man. There's a light on in this room, and I noticed it earlier, and why the fuck is it on? I didn't turn it on. Whoa. Like, that's the other thing about this place, Martha's Vineyard. Like, okay, so when I first left my house in California in early October, like when I moved, I wasn't thinking this consciously at all, but then I just decided like, I want to go to Martha's Vineyard. So I went to Martha's Vineyard and like stayed at this terrible Airbnb, and that was a whole other thing. It really felt like energies were trying to fuck with me to keep me like in where I was at that house. But I managed to break out of it, and great. And now it's like I've circled back and I'm here, again, like almost 6 months later. And I'm much more squarely landed here. Like this is a much more supportive place, although it isn't nearly as supportive, like the house I'm staying at, it isn't nearly as supportive as what I hope to be in soon. And I have a car now, which has actually really helped a lot in terms of just making me feel like I have a place on earth. Anyway, in October, I remember one night, you know, it was getting darker earlier and stuff. And I was walking with my dog out like in the woods, and I was actually staying pretty close to where I'm at right now in West Tisbury. So it's like more, this is like up island. It's like more remote and stuff here. And there's woods. And we were walking in the woods and it got dark pretty fast. And I remember feeling like, oh, there's nothing in this woods. Like there wasn't anything there to mess with us. No darker energies. It just really didn't feel like anything was there that was going to be a problem or like scary in any way. You know what I'm saying? Like how you can sense stuff like that. But here, I feel a little like there is something. And when I was walking back to this house, I'm going to freak myself out now, but I like also kind of am addicted to that feeling. Yeah. Why the fuck is that light on? Yeah. So when we were coming back from this walk tonight, right at dark, coming up to these like double glass doors, they're not French doors, they're sliding doors. I thought I saw movement in the house and there's no one else here. And then I'm like, why the fuck is this light on in this room? Because I didn't turn this light on in this room and I'm looking at it right now. Why is this light on? I think I turned it on. I had to have turned it on. Yeah, I think I turned it on. I don't know, but it doesn't feel so much here like there's nothing around in the way that it did at the place that I stayed at before in that section of the woods. But I was also reading like Glitch in the Matrix stuff last night, like the subreddit that's like my favorite subreddit. And people were talking about like, don't go out in the woods after dark and don't whistle and whatever. So like that's mostly probably what this is. Although I never want to like discount my intuition, and I did feel, I don't know, but there's something about the energy here that just feels better to me overall, like for real. And I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, whatever. In this coding class, I'm going to stop soon because it's already been almost an hour. But yeah, it's just interesting to see like how my hatred of systems that are man-made and where the fuck else does that show? Like, I mean, I feel like it shows up in capitalism and fucking programming languages. Like, where else more than in those areas? Like the unhealthy forms of it that are totally like made up. I mean, if it's like a physical or an engineering thing, if it's a bunch of men building a fucking bridge, like that's beautiful. That's like, there's something cool about that. And it's about actually dealing with the physical reality of Earth and this plane and what it is. But if it's fucking like capitalism is not real, it's totally made up. So are these fucking programming languages. They're so squishy. They're so like not grounded in math, really. It's like a myth, kind of, more than kind of. And so I'm just so annoyed by how like poorly designed I perceive them to be. But that doesn't mean that I don't have to fucking learn how to manipulate them and like use them as tools to build what Seeds needs so that it can support people, so that it can support as many people as possible. So I have to get over this fucking thing, this like hatred of it's a hatred of the toxic and a deep grief of like what this bad masculine energy has done to all of us. And so many of us are not awake to it yet. And I know that's part of my mission too. And that's what I hope to bring through with this clown film. It would really be about awakening people to remembering what it was like when we had that healthy feminine energy around us and in us. That's like what it would be for. And like, that's what film can do. Film can like touch people in those ways and do it without words. So I know that's what I'm here to do. And I know I have to process it through this body first and figure this body out and figure out how to get a healthy femme mask energetic balance in this body, because I don't have that yet either. And like, so yeah, I need to not be hard on myself about it either though, because that's the opposite of releasing it. But yeah, it just shows up so much in this course. Or like, we started JavaScript today, and like I have some familiarity with JavaScript and have been able to like quote unquote hack together some tools myself in the past that we've used, like users have used through Seeds. And I'm just like, this is so fucking dumb. And I know that other programmers that I respected also thought that. I mean, a lot of people think that JavaScript is fucking stupid. But it's just like if you learn how to comfortably write and build things in JavaScript, I mean, Solidity, the Ethereum programming language, is intentionally built so that people that understand JavaScript can easily pick it up. And you can do backend stuff with JavaScript. So it's just like it's going to unlock a lot of things for me that would solve the sort of immediate challenges that Seeds is facing. And I fucking know that. So I just have to be kind to myself and be kind to others. But it's just hard. Like, I just want them to question, like, I mean, JavaScript was written in 10 days in 1995 by a male cisgender white person who, like, doesn't believe that gay people should be married. That's the hill he wanted to die on. And that's what we're using. That's what I'm using now, recording this in fucking YouTube. Like, JavaScript works in every web browser that we interact with, I believe. Like, it's the fucking language of the internet. And, like, that it came from that person's brain in 10 days, right? So, like, that matters. And it's been adapted since then, obviously, and improved in certain ways. But it's just like, I mean, how many people know that, you know? Like, we just have all this stuff that we use, and who fucking made it, and what was their frame of mind and their belief system, and how did that filter into the fucking tool that they made? Even if the tool seems completely unrelated to, you know, that problematic, I don't want to use the word problematic though, but like, that's like a lower consciousness. Like, if he thinks that, that's a lower consciousness thing. So that lower consciousness is going to show up in stuff he made, and it has. And we have to learn this tool. And I like made a comment today in class about like how the instructor, who is excellent, asked like how we felt about things. And I was just like, well, I feel meh, because like I think a lot of the design is dumb. And he was like, well, I disagree with you. But I don't think he does. I think he's actually, I think he's just not considering some of these things. I think based on what he said so far and about other things, he's very anti-capitalism. He'd be very much in agreement with. And then I was just like, I felt like isolated and like, fuck, I'm all alone in this way I see things, and like I can't do this by myself. I was like all in that space then for like kind of the rest of the course today. And then I like wanted to binge eat shit because like there's self-punishment in that still, and that's still my self-punishment habit where it's just like, oh, I'll just eat a fucking bunch of junk because I like deserve to, then I can be like more quote unquote unattractive so that society can be meaner to me or whatever. I know that's the pattern, and it's also comforting at the same time. And like, I've released so many layers of that unhealthy patterning. I'm sure it's just showing up again now because it's a deeper layer that can only show itself through these group dynamics, which again have so much to do with my family of origin. And I can't like, you know, experientially revisit how much they're still present unless I'm in group situations, which I never am, except for like in this like handful of instances that I've shared with you. And I have to heal it, right? Like, especially if I'm ever going to have some sort of like family, or I don't know, like something that group of people I am with all the time and live with. Like, and I'll have more growth through people. I know that's true. I know this like hermit phase has been like sort of middle. It's like the tighter part of the birth canal thing, but it was like a part of the growth stages I have to go through. And I can feel, I know it. I can feel it, that there are the people that will really see me on the other side. I just can't feel into how that'll feel to be seen in that way by those people with that love and understanding and that sort of like higher awareness that is what I'd want to be around. So yeah, then I just feel kind of like, like this is the fucking way it is. That thing, you know, like that's how it always is whenever you feel like despair, right? It's just like, oh, this won't change, or this isn't changing fast enough kind of thing. And I'm like, I'll be 39 in 5 days. And that's officially middle-aged, I think. And I never, like, I hate it when people talk about age as like, oh man, one of the other instructors in the course, who unfortunately isn't very strong, but like she's like adequate, I think. And the curriculum is strong enough, and she's just teaching from the curriculum. So like, it's okay enough. But she like says a lot. She'll talk about how like if she doesn't know a reference or something, she'll say it's because she's old. And I like kind of hate it when people do that, because it's just like like something can be not cool. Like, and maybe you don't know about it because it's not cool. Or like, it's just like this, it's like internalized ageism, I guess. But I'm just so not into that being like a thing. Like, I don't know. And I don't think this is just me resisting getting older. I like getting older. Like, I'm even interested in the physical stuff that's starting to happen. Like, I mean, I think it's cool. It'll be cool. My hair is like Swamp Witch and it's getting grayer. You can see it here if you're watching on YouTube. I don't know. But like, I feel like when you're cool kind of forever. Like, cool old people. If you meet a cool old person who's like real, it's like it's great. It's so fucking great. Although hippies kind of don't exist anymore. Like, this energy has just snuffed them out. At least I'm not running into that many hippies anymore. And I felt like I used to. Anyway, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that makes me feel like there's less possibility, I guess. Or like, because everything, I guess, is kind of like about the opportunity. Like, you can do anything if you believe you can, obviously, but you only have a certain amount of time in this life. And there's opportunity costs. Like, every choice you make means you're not doing another thing. I'm doing this coding course now, so I'm not focusing on writing like my clown script. And I hope that I will have an opportunity to focus on that. If I got into this, oh man, that'd be so great. I hope that happens. If I got into the like writing colony thing that I applied to focus on the script for later this year, that'd be great. And then I could get things situated so that I improve the Seeds product and get it into a really good place. Prior to that, although I can continue working on Seeds there, like just like I'm doing now, and then like do another course, I guess, to bring in an influx of money, and then do the thing and get the script done and get my body figured out too. Then this 2023 building year could get me like really situated well for what I see coming in 2024, and get Seeds really well situated as well. And then this next creative stage could be like firmly whatever set up too, I think. So that'd be fucking cool. But like, I can't fill into it yet, I guess. Or like, it just, yeah, I feel very in-betweeny, and like I can't, even though I can sense what's on the other side and feel very optimistic about that, I can't feel what it's like because it's so unfamiliar to me to have like, I've never had like a supportive group around me that's like really loving and encouraging and fucking like cares about me and helps take care of me. Like, I don't know what that's like. And so I still think I deserve the other thing. And so I still keep kind of like finding it in people and in organizations and stuff. But hopefully it'll heal soon. Like the energy at this is better than the energy at the last Vipassana course. So that it's like telling me that I'm healing it more because I'm finding like a better quality of energy. And when I'm speaking, because I've already spoken up about issues at this thing too, which had to do with corporatism and stuff. They were like receptive enough. They're not going to fucking kick me out for saying, they're asking for feedback constantly, which is like good on them. And they're better, and I'm less freaked out, maybe less triggered. But it's still pretty strong triggering, and I'll just have to work through it because I have to fucking learn how to build this stuff using the tools that exist. That's just the reality I have to deal with. I have to deal with the reality of being a human on Earth in this body that I don't understand, that is like still weirdly unhealthy and fucking like feels real big right now, and it feels uncomfortable. But I can see my arm in the screen, and it looks like there's a little bit more muscle there and less fat. We'll see. We'll see how much muscle I put on in about a month when I get the DEXA scan. Yeah, so I guess to the in-between period. Let me honor it. Let us all honor it as we're moving through it. It's about the journey and not the destination, right? But I'm pretty ready to be in a new destination. Know what I'm saying? All right. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to y'all later.